Ladies and gentlemen, Lao Ong Hong, once marked by the romantic footprints of poet Han Mak II, has long been a destination for lovers of literature and nostalgia. But who would have imagined that the very place once echoing with beautiful verses of love also holds sounds that chill the living to the bone? In our next story, a young poetry enthusiast accidentally slips into the past. A past where poetry is no longer spoken by the living. We invite you to listen to the short story titled, The Whispering Poem in the Night. Phong, a young poet recently honored with a National Literature Award, traveled to Phan Thiet to rediscover his creative inspiration. He chose to rent a homestay near Lao Ong Hong, a place deeply associated with the legendary Han Mak II, his lifelong poetic idol. Poetry is the echo of the soul, Phong often said. He believed that if there was any sacred ground for poetry, it would be here, on this windswept hilltop where Han Mak II once penned his haunting verses. On his first night, after a day of wandering and journaling, Phong took his notebook and climbed up to Lao Ong Hong. The moon was full and bright, its soft, hazy light filtering through the crumbling stone columns, casting a surreal and ghostly atmosphere, like stepping into a painting that wasn't meant to move. He sat on a cold stone step, midway through writing a verse when the wind sighed so violently it tore a page clean out of his notebook. And then, he heard someone reciting poetry. A man's voice, clear, melancholy, a sorrow so deep it made the skin crawl. The wind follows its path, the clouds their own way. The sad stream flows on, cornflowers sway. Phong froze. His heart thundered. He knew those lines. They were from De Thon Vida, written by none other than Han Mak II. Is there someone else here who loves poetry? He wondered, trying to calm himself. He stood up, looking toward the sound, but there was no one. Only ruined columns and the cold, distant moonlight. He took out his phone, started recording video, and walked softly toward the direction of the voice. As he passed by a collapsed wall near the entrance of the site, the recitation suddenly stopped. Then, without warning, "Do you see the moon? My moon bled out long ago." A different voice whispered behind him, dry, hollow, and bone-chilling. Phong spun around. No one, but on the dewy ground were fresh footprints, sunken clearly into the soil, leading from where he stood to the cliff's edge. He shone his flashlight and followed them. There, barely visible, stood a man in an old white shirt, hair neatly combed, standing silently on the edge of the stone outcrop. Phong whispered, "Who are you?" The man slowly turned around. His face had no eyes, no nose, just smooth, pale skin like wax. "Am poetry," the figure said. "And poetry is dead." Phong screamed. He ran down the hill, stumbling and falling several times, but never stopping. Back in his room, pale and shaking, he grabbed his phone and replayed the video he had just recorded. The screen was mostly dark, but near the final seconds, a voice was captured, clear as day. "Do you see the moon?" Then a sudden flash. A face appeared for just 1 second, bleeding, deformed, eyes glowing red, screaming straight into the lens. And the most disturbing part, the video could not be deleted. Phong tried over and over, but every time he deleted it, the file would reappear in his phone at exactly 3:03 a.m. He left Phan Thiet the very next morning. He never wrote poetry again. Those who knew him say he suffers from chronic insomnia now, and in his sleep he often mutters, "Poetry never dies, but the poet can." After that night, the young poet never dared recite Han Mak II's verses in the dark again. Every time he heard those old lines, he remembered that lonely voice in the night, a voice that should have been silent long ago. They say poetry is the voice of the soul, the immortal echo of the poet. But if that soul carries loneliness, unbearable sorrow, then sometimes poetry becomes a whisper from the other side. So if one night you find yourself near Lao Ong Hong and you hear someone reciting poetry in the darkness, don't answer, because you never know who's listening to you. Thank you for listening. If this story gave you chills, leave a comment, hit like, and subscribe to True Ghost Stories. We'll be back with even more haunting tales. Wishing you a peaceful night.